Well, hello all. Thanks for stopping by. Tonight, thought I would crack open the Outlaws of Thunder Junction Precons that I was able to pick up here. Get a little bit of a cut on the thing here so we can see what is inside the box. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Oh, we got the bottom of the box there. And if you have already acquired these and upgraded these, feel free to put comments down below. Was not planning on picking these up, but then found them at a really good price, so decided to go ahead and indulge and pick these up. As far as which ones I'm probably going to upgrade and try out is definitely probably Quick Draw here, which is a spell slinger deck, you know, with your red and blue. I have one other spell slinger deck that I've created. Don't really play it that much, really don't know how to use it that much. These can be a little bit tricky, but this one's getting a lot of positive reviews that this is out of the box. It's relatively competitive, and that with a little bit of upgrades can be quite fun. So I'll probably undertake upgrading that one. The other one I'm thinking about doing an upgrade on is Desert Bloom. This is a landfall deck, you know, 3 colors of red, green, and white, and this one kind of plays on deserts of some sort and does a kind of a landfall mechanism in here. I have a primary landfall deck and then another one that kind of uses it as a secondary function, but I thought this might be somewhat interesting with some of the new cards that come in Outlaws of Thunder Junction. So these are probably the two that I'll definitely upgrade and try to play as a commander deck. These other two, I don't know how interested I am. I've heard some not so favorable things about Most Wanted. That it really does, you know, probably needs a lot of help out of the box. So don't know if I want to invest the time into that one. Excuse me, still got my cough going on. And this one, Grand Larceny, is I kind of have a steel deck already. Not with these colors. I have one that's red as one of the primary colors in the steel deck. I kind of like that one. I haven't tested it out that much, so I'm not sure if I want to go a different direction with that. So these two, don't know if I'm going to build out or if I'm just going to, you know, part out and use stuff as time goes by. Not sure yet, but these two I am kind of interested in building these two out, Quick Draw and Outlaw, Quick Draw and Desert Bloom. So with that, which one should we crack open first? How about we do Quick Draw, see what's in this one. As I said, this one, for most of the commentary that I've seen on these Precons, you know, first off, a lot of the commentary I'm seeing on these Precons is that they're much more competitive than some of the, I mean, the more recent trend in doing Precons is they're a little bit more competitive out of the box, and that the land is not completely a failure. So that's kind of a plus. But this one I've heard a lot of positive on, that a lot of people are, you know, having fun, you know, upgrading this one and not needing to do a whole lot of upgrade on it. So what do we get in here? We're going to get a collector booster sample pack. We'll crack that open. We get a little sleeve there, but this is the box to put the deck in. Somewhat flimsy, but you know, it is a box. And you know, the one thing about these boxes are you can put a 100-card deck in here sleeved. So, you know, they're not completely useless. And they have some of the art and imagery on that, and you know, got the colors to know what you got in there. So you do get a box. You get a life dial here, starting at 40 and going down here. So that's not all bad. Let's see what's in the sample, the collector booster sample pack. You know, I was good all day. And then the minute I get on camera, I start coughing away. So let's see what we got in here. It's got a spacer there. Then we got Great Train Heist. Now this is not a bad card. Take a look at that there. This is that new spree mechanic. So you got a base cost, and then you get you have a menu of options of how you want to play this. You can play it for, excuse me, any one of these. But this one is pretty good because you can untap creatures and get an additional phase so you pay the 1 plus another 1 red, another red, and then 2 colorless, and you get that. Or you can pay the 1 red and play 2 colorless, and you get a +1/+0 and gain first strike. Or you can play the 1 red and another 1 red. Choose a target opponent. Whenever a creature you control deals combat to that player this turn, create a tap treasure token. So this has got some, you know, the spree mechanic. It's kind of interesting. I mean, any one of those features are maybe not the most optimal by themselves, but the fact that it gives you the option to do it, and you can do more than one, I believe, then that makes these, you know, relatively interesting. Then we've got Skewer the Critics here. They brought back a spectacle feature cost here. So this is interesting. This is kind of a direct damage spell here. So that's what I got in the sample booster. Then we got some punch outs there. Not a lot. They're starting to cut down on the punch outs on these Precons, but you do get some tokens there, which, you know, I inevitably punch out and have a big box of loose tokens. We also get a little bit of a insert on telling what this deck is about, or at least an introduction to this deck. Talking a little bit about it there as you get that. So you get a little bit of art there and the like. So that is some of the components. Then we get into the actual cards themselves, and that's why you pick this up, is for the cards. So see what we have inside here. As I said, this is a Spell Slinger deck, so this is typical of red-blue. You're going to want to cast, it's going to be, you know, focused on casting a lot of spells in a turn and taking effect of casting a lot of spells. So you're probably going to have a lot of cheap spells, you know, 1 or 2 cost casting spells to maximize your casting power here. So the ability here is whenever you cast your second spell each turn, exile the top card of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. So feeding off of at least casting 2 spells a turn and then exiling a card and basically keeping it out there where you can play it the next turn. So there's a new feature or new mechanic in this set called plotting that kind of lets you do that too, but this is, you know, just a hardwired mechanic into this commander. You also have ability here where you, is that a tap? Yeah, you tap, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for that copy. Activate only if you've cast 3 or more spells a turn. So this deck really wants you to have low cost spells that you can just burn out, that you know, for every second spell, you're going to be able to exile a card and use that feature, but every third spell or 3 or more spells, you can tap and then get another copy of it. So so that's why I have a hard time playing these, because it takes a lot of, you know, planning out and getting your cards situated to where how you want to play them out in order to maximize the effect and get that third one to, you know, to get the copy there. But so interesting card there with Stella Lee. So then we've got Iris here. I'll do it this way so we can go in a little bit closer, and I can just do a card flip on this so you can see what's going on here. Classic, spell. This one I think came out in, I think at least Strixhaven. Don't know if it came out in another set, but any kind of spell, most spell slinging decks have this because it allows you to, draw a card. So it gives you card draw the more spells you cast there. So there are some reprints in this, as well as some new cards. But this, and some of the commentary I've seen here is that you really don't need to do a lot of upgrading to have this be fun and competitive out of the box. Another classic on spell slinging, pump every spell you cast or instant or sorcery, you're popping out creatures, so that gives you somewhat of a board state. Spell slinging decks usually aren't creature heavy. They're all about getting mana for the spells, getting spells out, and so some of these cards that let you create creatures by your spell casting are kind of a common feature in spell slinging. This one's an interesting one where it gives you gives you a big 8/8 whenever you copy or cast a spell, you can make one of your creatures a big dog on the field there. I think that might be a new one there. So anybody that has played this, feel free to know your comments. Do you like this out of the box? That's kind of a staple for red, kind of a cheaper cost. That card that gets you a little bit of removal there. Let me know your thoughts on what you think about this. How does this play out of the box? What are some of the go-to upgrades that you think need to be added to this? As I said, I've heard a lot. This is, out of all the Precons, this is the one I've heard the most positive comments on. Costly spell, but interesting. Can't be countered. Whenever you draw a card, it deals damage. So whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery, you play a card. So you can kind of get into some loop, and there's some combos you can put with that to make that be somewhat devastating. Another typical red-blue lets you get copy, and then you get a flashback here. Getting flashback. You can let you recycle your spells. You're going to only want to cast a lot of spells. You're going to be casting a lot of spells, so anything that lets you bring spells back or copy or recycle is kind of good in these kind of decks because you're going through a lot of volume. The other spell slinging deck that I've built had this as the I believe this was this was my commander in that deck. I know it was in that deck. I think I switched back and forth, but I think this is one of the commanders I use in that deck. Get some land here. And that's something I've seen over the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 or so iterations of Precons. The lands are not completely horrible. There was a time where they were just really bad. Might as well just put in basic lands, but they're actually putting some lands that, help you out a little bit. So there's a lot of, as I said, there's gonna be a lot of really cheap spells here, 1-cost spells that are kind of a staple in a spell slinger because it's all about volume and taking effect of other cards that either pop out creatures or let you use some of the abilities that are on the card. So you're gonna see a lot of that in the spell slinging deck. And this has a lot of the standards that you're going to expect in that. So again, another reason why it probably doesn't need a ton of upgrading because it's got a lot of the staples already built in. Card drawing for the red. Big scores, something that's been out for a while and useful. This is, of course, lets you create treasure tokens. So it gives you mana. You need mana to cast stuff. So this is not these decks are typically not, you're not building up a big pool of mana to do a big spell. You need mana to cast a lot of little spells. So that's kind of the point here. And this is, of course, a staple of every time you cast a spell, you're going to do direct damage. So like having that in there to keep, you know, pinging people on a regular basis. I kind of take, as I said, I've done one, you know, kind of a pure spell slinging deck. I got another deck I'm working on, I'm almost done with, that is based on, with River Song as the commander. It has some spell slinging features in it. I'm kind of doing some different stuff with it, and I'm probably going to bastardize it to the point where it's not going to be effective, but if it's fun, I don't care. But it's not a pure spell slinging. I guess I could go that direction, but I haven't. But this one I will probably try this out and see how it works. Some of your staple mana rocks. You know, a lot of people hate this and probably kick this out. You know, if it's an early draw, it's kind of useless. So let me know your thoughts on that one. This is a great card for a little bit of stacks for blue. Then I think we're going to get a bunch of regular land there, or basic land, and then some tokens, because again, this deck does pop out some tokens over time. So there you have it. Looks, you know, looks very familiar with the other spell slinging deck I built, and not that I'm great at building spell slinging decks, but it does look somewhat similar, so that kind of tells me that I was probably on the right track with the earlier one, and this one probably does not need a ton of work on it to upgrade. So there you have it. That is Quick Draw, and as I said, looks, you know, what do I know, but it looks relatively ready to go out of the box, and something that, you know, you can probably play it out of the box and have some fun with it and do okay. Or with a little bit of upgrading, might make it even, you know, even more competitive. So that's Quick Draw. So what do we want to see next? How about we do the other one that I'm probably going to upgrade and try to my hand at playing with. I just like landfall. I got, as I said, I have one main landfall deck or primary landfall, another deck that uses it quite a bit, and yet a third deck that touches upon it or benefits from it. But this one I think is, I think it's primary landfall, but it plays a lot with the graveyard as well, I think, and so should be interesting to see how it plays out as well. You know, the problem with building decks with similar themes, or one of the problems is, you know, if you run out of cards, right? If you have a great card that goes with that theme, you put it in one deck, and you know, you don't have it for the other deck. And you know, my son does quite a bit of proxying, because if you have the card, you proxy it. I like to have my decks complete and standalone. I'm just kind of a stickler that way, so I don't do any proxying. So if I don't have it, I don't have it, you know. Now if I use the same color sleeves, then I might be able to port it over. So here's some tokens here. Here is the collector booster sample pack. Of course, we got a sleeve there. We got another box for Desert Bloom right there. And I said the boxes are kind of flimsy, but I mean, you know, they do hold a 100 card sleeve, so they do serve their purpose. They usually, you can't fit tokens in there or anything like that. So, you know, if you want a more sturdy box, you know, go that direction, but they're not completely useless. Here's the little insert for that. I usually go through that. Here is the collector booster sample again. Let's see what we get here. See what kind of goodies we get in here. Sometimes you get something nice. And a little spacer there. Then we got, oh, see, Malcolm, the eyes. What do we have there? Sorry about that. 2/2 flying haste. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, investigate. Okay, that's kind of interesting. And it's red blue. That's something you might, you know, I might consider adding to Quick Draw. In that, you know, it's playing off these multiple casting. It's not that expensive of a card. It's flying haste. It's a creature, but it creates a token. It's going to create an investigate token, which again, investigate creates a clue token, which allows us to, you know, sacrifice, pay 2 mana, sacrifice, and get draw a card. So it helps out with card draw. Probably better in a deck where that kind of focuses on tokens or artifacts, but or clue more specifically. But you know, still, you know, I don't know. I might look at it. Then we've got Decisive Denial here, and this is kind of that wanted poster effect for these kind of special cards that go along with this set. So interesting. And let's get into the deck proper. This is Desert Bloom, which has the colors of red, green, and white. Of course, green and red are very common landfall colors, and my landfall, primary landfall deck is a red-green deck, but white, you know, has some pretty good, powerful landfall spells. So I wonder if those found their way into here. I would hope so with adding that color in here. So what you get here with Yuma, Proud Protector, spell costs 1 less to cast for each land card in your graveyard. So again, it's playing off that graveyard, so you're going to want to discard lands, mill lands, sacrifice lands, cards that do that that will it's going to play off. It's going to reduce the casting cost of this, but also it's probably there's going to be other cards in here that feed off of that. Whenever Yuma, Proud Protector, enters the battlefield or attacks, you may sacrifice a land. If you do, draw a card. So there you go. Sacrificing land and drawing cards. You got a built-in sack outlet there. Whenever a desert card is put in your graveyard from anywhere, create a 4/2 green plant warrior creature token with reach. So there you go. Something else going on here. Number one, there's a lot of synergy in this card in that what you have in your graveyard reduces its casting cost. When you put stuff in the graveyard, it allows you to draw cards, and when you get stuff in the graveyard, it creates a 4/2 green creatures with reach, no less. So it'll help protect you against some flyers. So quite a bit of, that's one reason why I decided I might, even though I have some land draw decks, this one, or landfall decks, this one has, you know, some interesting synergies, and I like to see how this plays out. And again, I don't have anything that uses those 3 colors. So there you have that. So here we go. Here's what's in here. So there's gonna be a lot of plants in this deck, other plants and tree folk. That's kind of interesting. Feeds off of plants and tree folks. I've got a tree folk deck too. So in my other landfall deck plays off on a lot of plants. So I'm gonna run into that problem of cards that I have in those decks. If I only have one of them, but I want to put them in this, what do I do? I got to rob Peter to pay Paul. So there you have that. So here's some of the stuff that's in here. There's a solid red-green, very costly, but does some very interesting things there. Chromatic Lantern. Some lands here. Okay, this is a standard in landfall decks. Does quite a bit there, popping out insects. Ooh, Hour of Promise. That might have came from Hour of Devastation or Amonkhet maybe. And you're going to see a lot of the similar cards that are in most landfall decks. They're going to have some of the basics in here, just like we saw some of the basics, some of the standard spell slinger cards in Quick Draw. You're going to see some of the standard landfall cards in this deck. But again, there's going to be some stuff here we haven't seen. Oh, I have several of that thing. That's a good card. Just went down in value because it's reprinted here. I don't think I have that one. Ah, yes. Seeing some old friends here. Here's Heaven and Earth. Split card there. Genesis Hydra. The Mending of Dominaria. Lets you mill some lands. So again, there's a lot of, it's not just landfall, it's playing with that graveyard or feeding off that graveyard effect. That's going to be a key to this deck. And, maybe, there's probably different ways you can upgrade this. You might want to go big with the 4/2 tokens, or, play off other aspects of the graveyard here. So there's some different paths you can take with this deck. There's your timepiece. Anybody's got any experience with it? And this, I think this also, there's some desert cards that play off deserts in here. So we're kind of, I know deserts were big back in Amonkhet, now we're Devastation. Now they're big in this set as well, kind of keeping with the Western theme. You know, we always think of tumbleweeds and deserts when we think of the Old West. Got jungle shrines. We got a jungle in the Old West here too. So. Dunes of the Dead. I think this has most of the old the desert cards that have been out there. There might be a couple that it doesn't, so you might want to, if you're going to go all in on deserts, there might be a few more you need to pick up to add to this. If you're a completist, like I tend to be sometimes. Standard Path to Exile. Well, here's a new spree card here in white. So you can pay 1 and 1 colorless and destroy an article, or 1 white and 1 colorless to destroy a target enchantment, or 1 and 1 colorless to put a +1 counter on each creature target player controls. So quite, that actually is probably a pretty good deal for the cost, and a lot of flexibility there. I tend to like flexibility. Excuse me. My son kind of goes, you know, for cards that do what they're supposed to do and do it the best, and I tend to err on the side of picking out stuff. I like, you know, I like doing more than one thing, or making a decision to go a couple of different routes, and so I end up liking the flexibility. All right, so this is interesting. So there's all your basic lands, here's your tokens and the like. So what I didn't see in here, there are some white landfall cards. Oh God, I can't remember their name now. Is it like Feldahar Retreat or something like that, where, you know, landfall and you create tokens or something like that. There's a couple of cards. I was wondering that you create a cat token or something like that. I would think those might be automatic adds in here as well. But again, I gotta figure out the theme and figure out the direction and go with it that way. So that is Desert Bloom. If you don't have a landfall deck or haven't built one before, this might be a good place to start. You know, start with this deck and kind of build up and figure out what the theme is that's going on here. But, you know, not bad out of the box. I think this one's, you know, definitely stronger and ready to go. But this one has some pretty good staples and looks, you know, kind of fun, especially the commander here with all its kind of built-in synergy looks somewhat interesting. So what should we do? Let's do Grand Larceny X. This is I think a lot of people consider this like the third best Precon out of this set, with most wanted being the worst, and maybe even hard to play or needing a lot of work. I don't know. I'll let you make that call. That's just what I've seen so far, and have not experienced, because I'm just opening these up right now as we speak. So there you have it. Got a lot of tokens to punch out. There's your advert or insert. There's the deck. See what we got in here. We have a sleeve. We've got a collector booster, and we have another box with a life counter. So there we have that. There is Grand Larceny. I think this one might play on, let's see, what do we say here? Where's the cover of this again? Steal cards and generate mana. So again, I have another steel deck. I don't know how good it is. I haven't really tried it out much. I really do need to get it to the table and see what it can do. But it feeds a lot on red. It's like red, blue, and black, I believe. And this one is, you know, black, green, and blue. So interesting combination there. So what do we get in here? We got Laughing Jasper Flint, a Lizard Rogue here, foil. It's kind of interesting. Makes your creatures mercenary. So if you're feeding off that tag, this makes your card, makes all your cards mercenary. Might come in useful. Then we got Journey to Nowhere. So there you have that. Let's see what we have in this Precon. This again is Grand Larceny, so this is going to be about stealing creatures, taking over creatures, taking control. The deck I have with the red is all about stealing, and then using red to steal and black to sacrifice. So you can grab someone's creature, swing it against them, and if it doesn't die, you can always sacrifice it and get whatever effects you want to get from your sack outlets. And then the blue is, in there for kind of control and, counter and the like. So here we have Gonti, Canny Acquisitioner. And spells you cast but don't own cost 1 less to cast. So that's interesting. So spells you cast but don't own. Interesting phrase there. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, notice it says you control. Deal combat damage to a player, look at the top card of that player's library, then exile it face down. You may play that card as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type can be spent to cast it. So that's kind of interesting. So you're kind of really taking over someone's deck and building a bunch of an exile pile that you can play from and using any mana. So somewhat of a powerful effect there if you can get it to go off right. So these are going to be cards that fit into that. I just thought most of the commentary I've seen on this deck is that it's okay, but it's not as good as definitely not as good as Quick Draw, and probably not as good as Desert Bloom. But again, if you do not have a steel deck, or if you haven't built that that theme or that mechanic, then maybe this is a good place to start. I mean, because you're going to get stuff that synergizes with that theme right out of the box. Now, one thing you're going to notice about kind of the steel deck or steel mechanic, there's a lot of text on these cards. So if you're a little scared of reading a lot or understanding what's going on in a card, then maybe this is not the mechanic for you or the theme, because I found that in a lot of steel or control type cards. There's a lot of verbiage on how it all works or how it all goes down. Yeah, there you go. There you got Gonti, Lord of Luxury, right there. I think we've all seen that guy before, but there's a lot of text on that card too. I mean, look at that. There's just so much. We're reading a book. You're writing a book. Thieving Varmint. So, as I said, interesting deck here. I actually might look at this for... I'm not planning on building this, but I might part this out and augment the blue and black cards in here and see if they make my other deck better. But who knows? Maybe I'll get a hankering to try this deck out. What are your thoughts on this one? Has anybody built this out? Is anybody interested in building this out? Anybody have any comments about this? All right, you can all just be quiet. That's okay too. I've seen that card before. Another standard black green there. Oh, the Mimoplasm. Interesting. Ooze. I've not built an ooze deck yet, but there's definitely enough cards out there to maybe start making an interesting ooze theme. Ooh, Chaos Wand. Some interesting cards in here. Is that Eldrazi? So definitely something, maybe I spoke too soon. Maybe I need to sit down and really look through this before I make a decision just to part it out before decline on the upgrade. But who knows? Again, any thoughts you have on it, feel free to chime in anytime, either now live or after this post. Put comments down in the chat below so they'll be preserved for all time. here? Another classic. I got some ramp in here. A couple of Eldrazi, that's interesting. More ramp. Doc Orak, that's I think a new card for this. I think either that or it's a reprint, but I've seen this in some packs of Outlaws. And some land. The rest is basic. So interesting. I don't know if it's enough to make me dive into this one. I don't know. Love to know what you know, what you think about this one. I'll put it in its box nonetheless. So what does that leave us? That leaves us with Most Wanted. And this one, again, has not gotten a lot of love. Earn treasure by Outlaws. Outlaws is kind of a new feature or function or keyword here. Outlaws are, pirates and rogues and mercenaries. That card that was in here that turned everything to mercenaries. Cards like that might be helpful because this plays off Outlaws or that concept of Outlaws. I think there might be other stuff in there, like Assassins. I probably left something out, but it's there's different cards that are considered Outlaws, and there's cards that play off of that, and this deck I think is going to have quite a bit of that mechanic or tries to make synergies with playing Outlaws or feeding off of Outlaws. So what do we got here? We got our box. This is going to be red, white, and black are the colors. Of course, rogues and assassins are typically in your black. Mercenaries, I think, typically are, I think they can be white too, but typically red. So pirates are red and blue mostly, I believe. But anyway, see what we have in the collector booster here. I want to thank you all for stopping by. Anybody that has stopped by and spending some time, and if you're watching this after a post, thanks for stopping by then or whenever you do. So here we have Obeka Splitter of Seconds. This is a one colorless blue, black, and red Ogre Warlock. It has Menace. When Obeka Splitter of Seconds deals combat damage to a player, you get that many additional upkeep steps. Ooh, that's kind of interesting. Playing on the old upkeep step. Don't see that every day. That probably has some deck builders thinking, wringing their hands, trying to figure out what they're going to do next. Here we have Humiliate with that card. So interesting there. Let's see what we have in this deck. I don't know what the big beef is with this deck. I don't know if it's just doesn't have enough synergy or just doesn't have enough, consistent theme to it. Doesn't know what it wants to be when it grows up. I really don't know what the big beef is, other than I've seen more than one editorial on it saying, not a fan of this, not that good of a deck. So here we have the Commander, Olivia, Opulent Outlaw, Vampire Assassin, Flying and Lifelink. Well, you gotta like that. And with those colors, there's some red vampire commanders and vampire decks that play off those three colors. So this might fit well into one of those decks as well. So I'll probably part this out, and maybe this will find a home, a welcomed home. Whenever one or more outlaws you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. Okay, so we're outlaws, and those outlaws are assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, and warlocks. Okay, so you got warlocks in there too. So if you have any of those, whenever they do combat damage, you're creating treasure. So there you go. You're already building in some ramp or building in some mana with treasure. So that's kind of an interesting effect. And then you can pay 3 colorless, sacrifice 2 treasure tokens, put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, activate only the sorcery. So that's kind of cool, and you can do it more than once. It's not a tap, so build up a lot of mana, sacrifice 2 treasure tokens, start popping in 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature. I mean, so you can go tall on this pretty big on your tokens or on your creatures. So that's kind of interesting. So not bad on its face. Wonder why it doesn't get the love. We'll just have to look at some of the cards in here. This played on that outlaw theme. Other outlaws you control have vigilance and haste. So that's kind of cool. And then it tells you what our outlaws again there, just in case you forgot already. And this lets you turn your treasure tokens into 3/3 constructs. 3/3 construct assassins. So they become an outlaw, and as an outlaw, if they do combat damage, you're going to be feeding off these triggers here. So all right, so definitely some synergy there. So is that where it ends, or what do we got in here? Interesting. Oh, Massacre Girl. Gotta like Massacre Girl. Oh, Fane. I like this card. I put this in a lot of whenever I want to get rid of tokens, like finality tokens, or stuff that I don't want to have on stuff, but I don't have an easy way to do it. This is a good card to do that, so I definitely like that card. Again, if I part this deck out, this is going to find a home somewhere else, because I do like some of the effects that it does there. Witch of the Moors, Nighthawk Stravenger. It's interesting. I wonder what the beef is. I mean, there's some decent cards in here. This is great for any rat deck. Got this in my rat deck. It's a rat generator there. I haven't seen Hex in a while. Destroy 6, not 5, not 7, just 6. Okay. It's an interesting card. This is another one I might need to, before I, put it up on a shelf or start piecing it out. I might want to, before I scavenge it for or salvage it for parts, I might need to look at this again and see what it really does here. Love to know your guys' thoughts on this. That's interesting. The old shapeshifter. Throw this in a lot of different decks. Be kind of a stand-in, or a token of whatever creature deck you're running. So this plays into that outlaw theme. So this is going to become whatever outlaw you want it to be, and be able to set off some of those triggers. Here's a red pirate. You would think with the treasure theme they would have put okay, well, I'm drawing a blank now. What's the great red card that everybody likes for treasures? I can't think of it. Somebody put it in the comments down below, but they didn't reprint that, so it's still up there in price. This is actually a pretty good card. That goes in. I've got a deck that probably needs that. Reign of Riches. Ooh, Lauren. Yeah, this partners. Do they have Camber in here? I bet they did have Camber in here. Those two were in an earlier deck. An earlier Precon, I believe, they came together. I think. Years ago. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Oh, fixer. All right. Life insurance. The old extort mechanic. Another treasure generator there. Queen Marchesa. Kind of plays off the monarch thing. And this is a standard or staple in any token generator deck there. Oh, good. The Academy Manufacturer. That's a good card. That's a pretty good one to have in here. Can't have too many of those. Bounty board. Vault of the Archangel. Interesting. Might part this out just for some of the lands, maybe. I don't know. Bonder's Enclave. Interesting. So not, some interesting lands in here. As I said, I think they've done better over the last several releases of Precons. Where you just don't have to, it's not just a bunch of tap lands. Geek and Rogue. I guess that Rogue feeds off the Outlaw. Here's a spree card here. Oh, we saw that one before earlier, so I got another one of those. Another changeling. They're playing off on the shapeshifters. That's actually, not bad, given if you're trying to play off a certain theme or keyword, and having, that's a good fill-in to put those shapeshifters that just take on whatever you want them to be to fit your purposes. So I don't know. I don't know why this is not getting a lot of hate. There's a lot going on here. I would say that. I don't know how tight this is. This is destroy non-outlaw, so that's kind of good. If all your cards are outlaw, then that's a good card to have. It's a one-way wipe there, or one-way destruction. And this finally got reprinted again. It's going to bring the prices down on that. That's interesting. Kind of pass it around, draw cards, and pass it around. Boros Charm. Trailblazer Boots. There's a snake in my boot. Yeah, I don't know. I might sleep on this one and see if there's something to do here. It does look, there's more than meets the eye there, but again, did not get a lot of love. A lot of non-basic lands, because your basic lands that's all you get for basic lands. So a lot of non-basic lands in there. And then you got your tokens, and there you have it. That is, excuse me. What is this? Most Wanted? Is that what this, let's see, that is, what did I do with the box? Yeah, this is Most Wanted, right there. Oh, what's that? Got those two confused. I got Quick Draw confused with Most Wanted. So there you have it. There's gold in them there hills. Those are the 4 Precons that came out with Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Overall, I not bad. Some interesting cards in there. I don't know about value-wise, how they did with the reprints. A lot of times there's a lot of value. Like the last set that came out, there was a lot of value in the reprints that came out. Quick Draw, if you don't have a Spell Slinger deck, this is probably a really good place to start, and not a lot of upkeep on that. If you don't have a landfall deck, then Desert Blue might be a good place to start. There's some interesting stuff going on in there, so I'm probably definitely going to explore that. If you don't have a steel deck, maybe Grand Larceny is the way to start. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with that one. I might sleep on that one. It's not singing to me, but if I leave it on the shelf long enough, it might jump off at me. And then the Most Wanted, there's a lot going on. You're trying to do treasures, you're trying to do outlaws. There's a lot of different kind of cards going on there. I'd have to I probably need to really sit down and take a serious look before I decide to do something with that. So I can see why maybe people shied away from that a little bit, because there's a little bit more lift to that than just, you know, cracking open quick draw and start throwing spells. This one might take a little bit of thought and tuning up a little bit. But there you have it. Those are the precons. Here were the cards that came in the booster sampler, or sampler booster, or whatever you want to call that. I like that card. I actually put that, this Great Train Heist, I put that in my dragon deck. I've got a dragon deck that really, you know, plays a lot on treasure, and so I thought this fit nice because you can do some treasure, you can get another combat phase, and or get first strike even. But I mean, so I like the flexibility, and that not too much of a cost. So I fit that in my red treasure dragon deck, monocolor. So there you have it. Thank you so much for stopping by. Love to know your thoughts and comments. If you didn't catch this live and you're catching it later, feel free to drop those comments down below. I will definitely respond to it and try to answer. Please answer all my questions that I asked during this live stream. Yeah, you don't have to. But anyway, that's what I have for you tonight. Thanks again, and you know, happy hunting on your pack openings, and have fun playing Magic.